Hi, and welcome to the Third Sector. My guests today are representing the Richmond Rose Garden. I have with me John Pemberton and Beth Vanderburg. Did I get that right, Beth?
You did. Yes.
Great
Thank
start.
you.
Let's talk a little bit about the Richmond Rose Garden. I know we're all familiar with where it's located and the beautiful roses that are in there, but John, maybe you could tell us a little bit about how the Rose Garden got started and why Richmond felt they needed that Rose Garden.
It has an interesting story. In 1968, the downtown explosion decimated downtown, and we had a national reputation for being the city that blew up. And so the Chamber of Commerce wanted to adopt some kind of motto, a recognition to get rid of that stigma. And so they came on the idea of calling ourselves the Rose City, because E.G. Hill and his brother had over 30 acres of roses under glass, was known throughout the world as a preeminent rosarians. They shipped about 25 million roses a year, so it was natural that we would adopt the Rose City for Richmond. We had a downtown explosion in 1968 that made this almost necessary. Professor Don Royer, who had taught at Earlham College, had also served in teaching in Germany. And he suggested the idea that we have a rose garden. He was familiar with the garden in Zweibrücken, which they very proudly refer to themselves as the Europa Rosen Garden, Europe's Rose Garden. And so a group of volunteers visited Germany, Zweibrücken, other rose gardens, and came back with the inspiration of having a huge 13-acre rose garden, which they had 250,000 visitors a year, paid visitors, supported by the city. And we were very, very much impressed. So our fledgling community, our organization, probably 15 people, would meet monthly to try to bring this into realization. And after some efforts to establish a big garden, we ended up with a small garden as a test garden, which we got from the 99 year from the Richmond Park Department. And so the idea of a new addition to Richmond was developed by the enthusiasm of a number of people. And so we put the garden in 1987. And we're very proud of it.
As well you should be. It's a beautiful place. Now, I've lived here 17 years, and that's the first time I've heard the story of how the Rose Garden got started. I really did not know the origins, so I'm glad to know that. And what a neat story that is for our community, that out of this tragedy, something wonderful happened, something that presented almost a new life for the city. That's an amazing story. Tell us a little bit about how the Rose Garden is structured. Do you have a board of directors? Are there any paid staff? And I'll let whoever wants to answer that one.
Well, we have a board of directors. The paid staff, we work with the Parks Department. But like I'm vice president on the board, and mainly we are staffed by volunteers. And you know, like John has an area he takes care of, and I have a set area that I come each week and take care of, and that's pretty much how we keep it looking the way that it looks.
So tell me a little bit more about this. Areas of the garden. Are you talking about specific beds, or if someone out there is listening saying, I really enjoy gardening, explain to them how they might be able to be part of this project.
They can have a specific bed that they take care of, or they can just come and volunteer each week, where usually there's people there on Tuesday mornings or Friday mornings. I tend to go on Tuesday morning. And even if people want to do like an hour a week, it's amazing what you can get done by coming and doing an hour a week and just weeding or deadheading or just simple things. And then we do have specific days where we'll call it a work day, where we'll try to get more people. For instance, when we planted the annuals, I bet we had maybe 10 people come, and we were able to plant 880 annuals within like a 4-hour time period.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah. But it's a lot of fun. You get to meet new people, and a lot of the work days we've had, it's been real enjoyable. And I know last year we had one to help out the Daggies take care of their bed. It had gotten a lot of thistles in it because they're getting older and weren't able to take care of it. So a group of us at a board meeting said, well, let's set a work day, and we all pitched in. And then AJ came by with some brownies for us, and we all had a really good time. It was very fun.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say 800 plants, that goes really fast when you've got that many people that are helping put those in the ground.
Yeah, it went pretty fast. And our president, Gerald Smith, had his daughter came as well, and he's a real good one with tools. He comes up with, he'll bring a rake, or he had like an auger tool that we could put in the ground to make our holes. And that's, we kind of made it as like an assembly line, and it went pretty good, and it was a lot of fun.
And so really, this group of volunteers is responsible for the entire Rose Garden. I mean, the Parks Department I know helps out now and then, but it's truly this core group of volunteers that's keeping that garden beautiful for the city.
Yes. Yeah, the Parks Department helps us. I know Jean comes to our meetings, and then she comes along and helps sprays, and they help us with bigger projects, but mainly it's the volunteers.
And it sounds like pretty much any age group could come down and help. You talked about someone's daughter being there, and I know occasionally there have been some maybe Boy Scout troops that have come and helped.
Mm-hmm. And we just recently had the Seton High School students came and helped. They have a branch out day, and we got on their list and had 4 or 5 students come down, and they helped dig holes and weed, and so we had younger students helping as well.
And I know I've heard one of the issues is that the core group that really cares about this garden and wants to take care of it is getting older. And it is harder to get down and pull those weeds and to be out in that hot sun. So I think our appeal might be to the community, come on down and give us an hour, whether it be on a Tuesday or a special work day. Would you say that's a fair appeal to the community?
I would say yes, and they don't have to come on those set days. Those just seem to be the days when there's more workers there. And the first time they come, they would maybe want to come when one of us was there, and we could just show them, this is what we do, and then they can come with a group or by themselves, either, whatever works for them.
There's sometimes a reluctance among people to volunteer. But when I retired in 1885, I was looking around for things to do. I wasn't accountable to my job anymore. And so I kind of stumbled in with the idea of the Rose Garden, and I found this to be one of the great satisfactions that you can gain by giving back something to the community in which you've lived. But there is a reluctance amongst people. They feel like, well, I don't know too much about roses. You can learn how to deadhead in 15 minutes, and you can choose your hours. You can work as long as you want to, as short as you want to. You can have vacations during the daytime or summer, and others will pick up where you've been. But you have to volunteer gives you a sense of belonging to a community, a sense of gratitude, from being able to to give something that doesn't cost you any money, just a little bit of your time, and you meet the most wonderful people. There's just something about meeting a person that's come off the interstate to see the garden, and you give them a brochure, you chat with them a little bit, and almost invariably they tell you how much they appreciate the fact that you work there as a volunteer. So I encourage people to try it, and then if it doesn't fit their needs, no one is going to badger them or anything like that. If you could give an hour a week, 3 hours a week, some even more at the busy times. But I think as for an older person, the reluctance with physical infirmities, all of us have those. And we overcome them, and when the body says enough, we stop.
Sure.
But the fellowship is one of the priceless things that I have gained from roses. Now, I didn't like roses when I first started out there. Now I have a passion for them, and a passion for these volunteers.
That's a great story, and I think it really drives home the point that regardless of how much time you have or what your skill level is, there's a way that you can help keep this rose garden beautiful for the city. Now, we've got just 2 minutes. I know you can't totally rely on volunteers. You've got to have some need for funding. Tell us very briefly how the Rose Garden is funded for those needs that you have.
Well, I know just recently we had a corporate sponsorship drive, which we sent out letters and just explained what we need money for. And we have our money is through the Wayne County Foundation, and we can get grants through there. And you know, we have very few fundraising events, but we do need funds because there's more things we have to hire out now. We have to purchase more chemicals. Any amount will help us.
If there's someone out there watching and they say, I'd like to give $100 to the Rose
Yes.
Garden, how do they do that?
They give it through the Wayne County Foundation. So they just mailed a check to Wayne County Foundation in Richmond, and they put attention Rose Garden.
Okay. And we'll put that address up on the screen for the viewers so they know exactly how to send those contributions, because I know volunteers do the work, but there's still a financial need for the Rose Garden that is only met through contributions from, as you said, businesses and individuals in our community.
That's correct.
We're out of time, believe it or not. That has gone so quickly, but I thank you for the good information. Like I said, I have learned something about the Rose Garden I didn't know, and hopefully those folks that are watching today have also learned something and will be moved to come down and give a few hours of their time to help keep those roses beautiful. So John and Beth, thank you very much for being with us today.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for having us.
And thank you for joining us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Third Sector. My guests in studio now are Steve Hayes Jr. and Steve Hayes Sr. representing Hayes Arboretum. Good to have you. I think I can remember the names this time, Steve and Steve,
Yeah.
so we got that.
Thank you.
I know Hayes Arboretum has been around a very, very long time. But as I just learned in the last segment, there are things about the community I still don't know after being here 17 years. So give us a little history of how the Arboretum got started and why it got started, and just tell us a little bit about the organization.
Be glad to. Rachel, my grandfather, Stanley W. Hayes, came to Richmond in 1911 from Geneva, New York, 100 years ago this year, ironically. And he constructed his railway safety equipment business on North 3rd Street, a 2-block area where it still stands and is still active. In 1915, he started buying parcels of land east of the city. It was really the country then, taking the profits from his business to purchase the land. In 1921 through 1923, he built a house which still stands. It's what we call our Hayes house, and raised his family there. My father included and continued his successful manufacturing business. And he, over the next 20 years or so, gradually gathered pieces of real estate, contiguous pieces of real estate, and built what he called Hayes Arboretum. His vocation was mechanical engineering. He was an inventor of great renown, had 88 patents registered in the U.S. Patent Office. But his avocation was replanting the countryside, which at that time much of the forests were being taken down and put into farming. So that was his way of giving back. And he lived to the age of 97. He passed away in 1963, had a good long life, but before he passed away in 1959, Stanley W. Hayes Research Foundation was established. My grandfather and then my father, Bryce Hayes, were instrumental in forming the research foundation. Several original objectives: to find a cure for the treatment of arterial sclerosis, and that has subsequently been accomplished. Also, there was big concern at that time with DDT and the poisonous sprays for birds, so an idea was to protect birds and also to provide funding for Hayes Arboretum. So the foundation was formed in 1959. The Arboretum opened to the public in April 28th, 1963. A lot of mystery obviously surrounded the people in Richmond at that time, and it was a huge crowd that particular day. In 1964, we had our first summer classes, and we've been doing so for 46 consecutive years. So that's a little bit about Hayes Arboretum.
That's a really neat story.
Well,
I really
thank you.
didn't realize it had been that long. That's amazing. 100 years ago, he came to this area. That's amazing.
Came from Geneva, New York.
Yes. Wow.
Business.
So bring us to modern day now. You're providing the programmings and things you kind of alluded to. So tell us a little bit about what's going on at Hayes Arboretum right now.
Well, we're recovering from a very difficult spring, getting the property in order. Been challenging with the wind and the rain and the impact on our property, but we're getting ready for our summer class program at 2011. We call it ArbQuest 2011, and still have openings in many of the classes. So that's a program that's about a month long. It begins June 28th and goes through July 29th. Also, for the fourth consecutive year, we'll be hosting Third Grade Reading Academy, which is a partnership between the Richmond Community Schools and I believe Wayne County Foundation's involved in that as well. So we're one of the higher profile destinations for children to sign up and occupy part of our administration building with nice breaks to go out and enjoy nature and learn some things about nature during the class time. For example, in the month of June, we've got a YMCA summer camp coming out for one day. We have the Boys and Girls Club bringing one of their groups out. Have Northeastern School bringing I think 3rd and 4th grade group out, and also a night hike to boot, June 24th. And this season we're partnering with Cope Environmental Center. We've done 3 of the hikes already. No, we've done 2 of the hikes, but we have 5 more to go. 3 of them will be at Hayes and 2 of them will be at Cope. And the advantage is that if you're a member of Hayes or Cope, the admission is free. Otherwise, it's $3. But we found night hikes are a particularly exciting time for both young and old, and you might get a chance to hear an owl too.
It sounds like
Get
a
some
lot
exercise.
Yes, it sounds like a lot of fun, and how nice that you're able to partner with these other groups instead of saying this is mine, this is yours. You know, working together for the betterment of the community just makes it a much stronger community, I think. Tell us a little more about ArbQuest. Is that what you called it?
ArbQuest. The classes include nature adventures. They're taught by Stephanie McCurdy. She's been teaching with us for 4 or 5 years doing the summer programs. And we have a wood carving program with Dale Lewis. He's been with us for a number of years.
For ages kindergarten, preschool age, all the way through eighth grade.
Right, that's the ArbQuest. Yeah, it was really the two components. Now the nature adventures are really kindergarten through 5th grade, but the wood carving is 3rd grade through 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So
a little bit of something for everyone,
so
all
something
ages.
for everyone. Yeah. So we have good availability, and now would be a good time to do it. Steve, did you want to talk a little bit about one of the initiatives you're doing with the City Fit and partnering with Richmond Parks and Recreation?
Right, we've been talking to Richmond Rec and Parks. Glenn Miller's just right next door, and they have a City Fit event coming up in conjunction with the radio stations, Kix 96 and G1013. For a City Fit Family Fitness Day, June 11th, and we've been working with them coordinating a Frisbee golf course there at the park, working with Innova Frisbee Golf and having a temporary disc golf course right there at Glenn Miller for the City Fit event. So it should be a really great activity. We should also mention the rentals and the weddings we have coming up. We have 2 weddings there at the Arboretum just this weekend, in addition to all of our other programs and classes and events there at the Arboretum.
Mm-hmm.
So you can rent the Hayes house for weddings and receptions?
Correct.
Right. Well, we have 2 places really on the property, the Woodland Chapel, and we did our first wedding there in 1970.
Oh, wow.
That's where we have an Easter sunrise service for several churches each year, and when the climate was a little milder, we would have the Easter sunrise service in the Woodland Chapel.
Yes.
But lately, Easter has fallen on either it's been too cold or too wet, and we still have that service, but we have it in the Nature Center. But Woodland Chapel and also the Bryce Hayes Memorial Fountain are the 2 places where we generally have weddings.
Area.
Well,
Beautiful
thank
area
you.
for an
Thanks.
outdoor wedding.
Yeah.
We've got just a couple minutes left, and I know one area we probably need to touch on is funding, because this doesn't all just happen. It needs some funding and some support from the community. So tell the folks that are watching how they can help support the Arboretum.
Well, there are a number of ways. Now we are fortunate enough to have an endowment. We get a good bit of our operating income from an endowment, but we rely upon memberships and donations and contributions and rental income, program fees, and one way, and our mission, our overall mission, is education. With Wayne County Foundation, we have the Hayes Arboretum Education Endowment Fund. We've had it since 1997. So if one prefers not to make a contribution directly to Hayes Arboretum, they can make the contribution to Wayne County Foundation specified for the Hayes Arboretum Education Endowment Fund, and it will give long-term assistance to our summer classes. So,
Super.
and again, we're open, free to the public, Tuesdays through Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so come see us.
And the website is up to date and features information on memberships, whether it be family memberships, single memberships, or corporate memberships.
Okay. Give us that website, and we'll put it up on the screen for everyone.
Sure.
It's www.hayesarboretum.com. HayesArboretum.
That's a long one.
That's wrong. .org, O-R-G, which is the not-for-profit suffix.
And it also provides a calendar of our events, the summer courses and the activities. It's up to date, and it links to WayneNet as well. So it provides all those events for upcoming activities.
A little bit of a one-stop shopping there, so we can figure out how to support financially, what the programs are going to be, and the hours of operation.
Correct.
Super.
Right.
And a wide variety of links for plant questions, plant and wildlife questions for around the state of Indiana and the Whitewater River Valley if people have questions.
What a nice resource. Well, they're signaling me we're out of time. I can't believe it went that quickly, but thank you so much for being with us today and telling the public a little more about Hayes Arboretum.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Our pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today on The Third Sector.